Appreciate everybody joining us today, especially taking time out of your busy days to find out more about solar. We're going to focus on commercial businesses today. Obviously, we do more than that, but that is our biggest market here in Alabama, and we're going to go through why it makes most sense here. I also have Sam Yates, who is our owner and CEO. We'll be bouncing back and forth with each other on a little bit of information for you. But again, as Kat said, please feel free to ask any questions, and we'll address those at the end because we're trying to give you the basics. There's a lot of detailed information on solar, but we're going to give you the basics today. And if you have more questions, certainly, hopefully afterwards, you'll pick up the phone and give us a call. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. We do have a PowerPoint presentation to go through, and we're going to kind of, the order of events is really going to be, let's start this from the beginning here. Hopefully you can see. All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen, but the order of events, so basically we're going to give a little bit about why solar makes sense, how it works, the incentives, and then quickly kind of go through some of our projects. So a lot of good information for you today. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. This is also the front of page of our website. So it looks like a familiar picture. You'll know it's us if you pull up our website and you see this picture on here. That is Sam, and I'm again Sam, CEO and owner, and I am a senior sales engineer. I've been with the company about 2.5 years, and it's been fantastic. I do have to start off with a tax disclaimer, unfortunately, but basically it says any information in this presentation is for general informational purposes only and is not intended and should not be construed as legal, accounting, or tax advice, yada, yada. Basically, we ask that you take any of this information to your accountant or your tax advisor, as we go through it. So I'm going to start off with an interesting little quiz. Hopefully you've seen this before. We actually, on Earth Day week, we did some quick, interesting little quizzes about solar. And certainly please in the future, if you're interested in getting more information about solar, looking at some of our drone shots, some of our projects, so what's going on in the news of solar, follow us on LinkedIn. But so you may already know the answer to this one if you follow us. But basically, how much solar energy reaches the Earth's surface at any given moment? So what would be your guess on that? If your guess was 173,000 terawatts, which is 173 trillion watts, so that's times 10 to the 12th, that's a huge number. Solar energy is the most abundant energy source on the planet. Basically, it means if we could absorb all that energy at any given moment on the Earth's surface for an hour and a half, then we could power the world's electricity consumption for a year. That's just, to me, that's just a sign of how awesome solar energy is and why it seems to make so much sense for us as we proceed into the distributed generation world of energy. I'm going to turn it over to Sam now, and he's going to talk a little bit about our history and who we are.
Thank you, Kathy. Just want to make sure the volume's coming through okay. If someone there can give us a thumbs up. Yes. Sounds good. Great. Okay, so I founded the company in 2016. An interesting fact, in 2014, my daughter back then was, I don't know, circa 30 years old, said, oh, by the way, Dad, we're putting in a solar system on our house in Mountain Brook, and we're going off grid with batteries. And really? And as many of you know, Alabama is not high in terms of solar concentration. In fact, we're ranked 48th in the nation for installed solar. So I was very interested in this, and they are very renewably and green in terms of their disposition. So during the process, I watched and learned and talked and asked questions and observed, and it became fairly apparent that the systems were reasonably simple and plug and play. And so after that experience, I went back and I started doing my due diligence. I contacted people I knew and people I was referred to, and Alabama Power and so forth. And it just seemed like now was the time to get in solar. So that's the reason I got into it. So today, fast forwarding, we are the largest solar installer in the state. We are licensed as general contractors in Alabama, Georgia, and North Carolina, soon to be Mississippi. We've actually installed systems across the country. The first system I ever installed was in just outside Denver, Colorado for one of my daughters. I've got a sister in California who bought a system from us. We installed a system in Montana. We've installed in our licensed states across the Southeast, and we have a system going into Kentucky as well. So lots of things going on. We're headquartered here in Birmingham, and
My fault.
that's okay. I'll move on. Headquartered here in Birmingham with an office in Durham, North Carolina. We are what the acronym is CNI, which is our primary focus is commercial and industrial. And we do residential, yes, and we are big into energy storage. And so a lot of our residential is focused on microgrids or what we call partial off grids with energy storage. And lastly, and maybe as important, is we are members of the largest solar purchasing cooperative in the nation called Amicus. There are 61. We have 61 associate members that are located anywhere from Puerto Rico through Alaska. Last year, this cooperative installed over $750 million in solar installs around the nation. And it's just outside of the purchasing economies. You know, we share insights, marketing information, new technology, help each other, et cetera, et cetera. And as I mentioned before, we are also big into big into energy storage. We are the only licensed Tesla Powerwall installer in the state, and we also carry several other energy storage brands as well. So what's some of the tailwinds driving the industry at this point? Obviously, the change of administration in Washington is big. On the upper left, you see the what was put forward by the House Ways and Means Committee, the Growing Renewable Energy and Efficiency Now program. On the lower left, you've got BlackRock's focus on companies now that are have a sustainable strategy disposition. The oil industry is jumping on the low carbon bandwagon. And then, the lower right is the push towards EVs. And a quick comment on EVs is there's so much research going on right now for the transformation between internal combustion engines and electric vehicles. In fact, we as a company now are buying electric vehicles, believe it or not, or leasing electric vehicles, not big trucks, but sedans, et cetera, for about half the cost of traditional internal combustion engine cars. And the nice thing about electric vehicles is they cost virtually not zero, but as close to zero to operate as you can imagine. With the recent Colonial Pipeline snafu, gas lines, in fact, many states, they are running out of gas. Well, electric vehicles don't have that problem, not to mention the maintenance is virtually zero. And if you can generate your own energy like we do at our office, it only costs about 2 cents a watt to operate. And then finally, with the focus on electric vehicles worldwide, everyone's heard of Tesla, of course, and their facility out in Reno, Nevada. Huge facility, billions into battery research. Well, believe it or not, there are 11 other facilities on the planet that are bigger than Tesla. The top 4 are located in Japan, China, and South Korea, believe it or not. And the EV market over in Asia is much bigger than it is here, which is phenomenal for lowering our carbon footprint.
I'm going to go a little bit into talking about electricity prices. I wanted to put this question out there because it's one that's the most surprising when I ask the customers this question. Where does Alabama rank in commercial electricity prices? Most people would say, I think I've heard Alabama prices are actually pretty low. Maybe we're ranked 40th, with number 1 being the most expensive, or worst case, maybe we're in the middle, but around 25th. Truth is, we are actually ranked 14th in commercial retail electricity prices, only behind California, Hawaii, Alaska, and the Northeast. That makes us the most expensive commercial electricity costs from the utility in the Southeast. This is one of the main reasons our growth is so much here in Alabama. Basically what we're trying to do is offset those utility prices. And the more expensive the price of every kilowatt hour, the better the economics for solar. In particular, if we look at in detail what that looks like, the blue line would be your national average for the price of commercial utility per kilowatt hour from your utility. So this is 20 years of of data from the Energy Information Administration. The blue line again is the national. It goes up about 2% per year, pretty much going with inflation. But about a decade ago, Alabama actually crossed the national average. And we are now, as you can see, about 11.5 cents per kilowatt hour, whereas in the nation, they're just under 11. And in Georgia, if we have any Georgia folks joining us, you're just under 10. So you can see we're on a pretty big rise versus the national average at about 3.5% per year versus the 2% you would see nationally. And as a note, we don't have 2021 on here, but we actually saw some of the largest increases in commercial pricing this year in 2021. We've seen anywhere from about 3 to 9% on some of their rate structures. Conversely, as prices from the utility is going up, our pricing to actually produce a kilowatt hour from solar has declined 89% in 10 years. So as you can see on the bottom right here, it says $40 per megawatt hour. That's equivalent to 4 cents per kilowatt hour. So as you can imagine from the last slide, if you're paying 11 to 12 cents a kilowatt hour to buy it, or you could produce it at 4 cents a kilowatt hour, the difference being how much money you actually get to put back in your pocket.
Yeah, so let me talk just for a moment about the state of the industry technology-wise. There have been and continue to be tremendous improvements in solar technology. When I first went to the business in 2016, for example, solar modules, generally the most affordable on a price per watt were maybe 300 watts a piece or maybe 325. Today, we are actually inventorying solar modules that are close to 500 watts a piece. There are 600 watt and above modules available, not really competitively priced yet, but those are coming. So the energy density of the modules has increased substantially just in that short period of time, and which allows for a higher concentration of energy generation on a typical roof. So the roof you're looking at here in the picture is actually on the south side of Birmingham. It's a building called Casket Partners. You can see the downtown in the background. The other thing this occurred is with the improvements not only in solar modules, but also in inverters. And inverters is the device that actually transforms the DC energy to AC energy. So virtually every system has an inverter of some type or capacity. Inverters today, as compared to 5 years ago, are now 99% efficient, 99% efficient in converting that DC energy to AC energy. And we always extend the warranties on inverters, which are from the manufacturer about 12 years. We always extend those to 20 years for our customers with a slight premium that we pay, and that's always part of our offered package price. So if you've got, for example, inverters that are warranted to 20 years, you've got solar modules that are warranted to 25 years, you've got systems that are saving energy that are forecasted or estimated to last 25 to 30 years or longer, and they generate a phenomenal return on investment. I mean, it really is, it's a no-brainer. The last thing I'll say about modules is just in the last year, we have, the industry's introduced, and we are installing a lot of these at this point, and that's a series of modules that has a much lower degradation rate. And as many of you might know, solar modules will degrade in terms of energy generation capacity over time, and they're typically warranted to withstand or be down above 82% of their original rated power after 20 years. Well, the new modules that we're selling now are warranted to be no less than 92% of their original rated power after 25 years. So it's a tremendous improvements, and we'll continue to see more and more improvements as time goes on. So let's get into the numbers here. From a high level, one of the big things driving commercial solar at this point in time is the investment tax credit. The acronym is ITC. It was extended at the 26% level late last year through the end of 2022. Rumors have it that under current administration, it could be extended for as much as another decade. And it could possibly be taken back to the 30% level where it was 2 years ago. Time will tell and we'll see. So the entire system installed cost qualifies for the investment tax credit, which is a direct write-off of your federal taxes. So it's a 1-for-1 reduction. So that's a 26% reduction. Now, energy storage systems, for those that are incorporating batteries, energy storage with their systems, they also qualify as long as 75% of the time they are powered by the solar array. And that's, we don't see energy storage is great. It's still expensive. We see more of that on the residential side just because the economies, the values of the scale are not as large as they are for commercial. However, commercial is adopting it at a pretty high rate, particularly for municipal systems. So that's coming, and that's another opportunity down the road. The next thing that really accelerates the return for solar is the jobs cuts and tax breaks legislation that took place at the end of 2017 under the Trump administration. It's called bonus depreciation. And basically the way that works is 100% of the system cost qualifies for bonus depreciation or depreciation in the first year. Now, one caveat here, and this is the last point, is that the bonus depreciation does get amortized or reduced by half of the ITC. So in other words, instead of deducting the full 100% as a depreciation tax benefit, can only deduct at this point 87% of the depreciation, which is to 26% divided by 2 is half of the ITC. So Kathy's going to talk more about the savings further on, but this is the high level in terms of the phenomenal tax benefits for solar. And another program that not many people know about is rural small business, rural energy for America program, which is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This has been in place actually for quite some time, but they actually provide grants for up to 25% of the total eligible project costs for solar and other energy saving programs for up to $500,000 maximum. So if you do the math, that's virtually a $2 million, up to a $2 million system would qualify. Now this applies to commercial systems and agricultural producers. And you have to be in a REAP area in order to qualify. And the REAP areas are those that are of lower population density. Well, we have many customers that do qualify, and they have applied and they have received the grant. So if you apply the grant opportunity on top of the tax benefits, on top of the energy savings, it's a real no-brainer. And along with the REAP, let me just mention this as well, along with the REAP program, if you are in the REAP territory, whether or not you qualify for the grant, the SBA has REAP loans that are phenomenal. They're low interest. They're up to 75% guaranteed by the SBA, which is a great, it's a great place to go for those commercial accounts that are looking to, project financing on their solar systems.
I'm going to do a quick Solar 101, and I apologize for those who understand how all this works already, but it's one of the first questions we come across when we're talking to folks. Our most popular for commercial businesses is a grid-tied solar system. This basically consists of solar panels on a roof or a ground mount connected to an inverter, which converts from DC or direct current to alternating current AC, which is what most of your systems are going to use. And from that, it is sent directly behind the meter. So what's happening basically is the building is going to pull from your solar system first. Anything the solar cannot provide, the grid or the utility will still provide. So you will need to see no upset in your system. This does not incorporate batteries. Batteries would be needed to run during stormy days or at night. Otherwise, this is just a simple system that is offsetting what you would buy from the utility. So when you were to get a bill, you would basically not see any credit back based on all your power going to the utility, as it works in some states, but rather than that, you would just see a lowered bill from the utility. Kind of want to give a quick example of if we were to put together a proposal for you, what we're exactly showing in this information and how it works. So what you're looking at here is a system that we designed. At the bottom left, that's what we're going to do is we're going to look at satellite imagery. We're going to spend some time getting to know you, understanding how you use your power. For instance, are you running 5 days a week or 7 days a week? Do you have any large base loads, such as data servers or refrigeration? So understanding how your building uses its power is key into creating a good solar system. From that, we will create a solar production profile. And from that, we can do the calculation of how we're offsetting, how much money you're saving by producing it from your solar rather than buying it from the utility. In this case, this was a 225 kilowatt system, or 187 on the AC side. That's the inverter side. So we would list the equipment that we would be using, as you can see in the right here with the equipment, how many solar panels it would have, and how many inverters it would include. From this, we also would put the pricing together. In this case, the system was roughly $438,000. And then we would also list out your tax credit and depreciation. So this number right here is essentially 26% of the gross cost of the system. And then, as Sam said, the bonus depreciation, which would be half of the ITC, or 13%, so it puts you at 87% depreciation. So 87%. In this case, we had a 35% tax liability. That gives you your number right there. So essentially, your net number of 191,000 is 43% of this. So in many cases, and in most cases, you are going to end up paying anywhere from about 40 to 50%, 60, sometimes even 60% less than what the actual gross cost of the system. And again, these prices are turnkey prices. So this is going to include not only the panels, the inverters, the racking, but our labor to install it, the permitting, the structural review, the electrical review, all that is involved into signing a contract all the way to the end, and the monitoring. We will do the full package. So that would include everything that you can use in your tax credit. The next page is going to show you a little bit of what your bill is going to look like after. It's going to show who the utility is, which is Alabama Power right here. This is a rate called LPM, which is very popular in Alabama. It's light and power medium. And then it's going to show you what your new bill is going to look like and the savings involved in that. In this case, we offset 32% of the overall usage of that building. And in the end, that came to a calculation, because we're going to affect both your energy charges and your demand charges. You're going to do an overall annual savings of approximately $32,000. For this case, this came out to about a 5.6 year payback. This is typical. We usually range from about 4 years to 7 years here in Alabama, depending on a lot of different factors, how much you're paying for your electricity being one of the largest, but also how you're using your energy, such as, are you going to export on the weekends and so forth. So that's why we spend a lot of time understanding how your building uses its power, so we can be as accurate as possible. We don't want to make any promises that we can't live up to. So we're going to make sure we spend a lot of time understanding your building's usage and how you use your power, and how your bill is calculated. So what kind of companies does this make sense for? You're wondering, does it make sense for what I'm doing, for what my business does? We're just looking right now at the EPA's top Fortune 500 partners, which is a program that the EPA has. So we're only looking at Fortune 500 companies, but just that alone, as of April 26, 2021, they have generated 43 billion kilowatt hours of green power. That's enough electricity for 4 million average size homes. So you can only imagine the kind of course, you've heard of so many of these names. So, you know, banking, insurance, technology, obviously a huge energy usage. So you're going to see that in Amazon and Google. Manufacturing such as Procter and Gamble. So a lot of technology, a lot of money managers, and of course retail, such as Starbucks and Kohl's. This is just a small smattering of companies that are signed on with the green power providers with EPA. This, of course, doesn't even touch what all the smaller companies are doing, but just gives you an idea of why it's, you know, the economics are huge. It saves money. But also, obviously, we have the sustainability piece. So it's something that's becoming very commonplace in the industry. All that leads to us seeing on a regular basis, huge corporations embracing solar. This is actually a report from the New York Times of October of 2019, talking about embracing solar for large companies. This obviously is a Target store. This is outside of Phoenix, near the airport. If you're ever flying over, and I thought it was just extremely clever to put the brand in there for Target so they can actually advertise at the same time making a statement here. You may have also seen, I think another very popular one is in Disney. You can actually see the mouse ears on from the side of the road. And Disney actually produces enough power to offset one of their entire parks. And they're actually in the process of expanding that even further. So it's very exciting to see how much solar growth we're seeing across the US.
Let's look at a couple of just local examples here in Birmingham, in the Birmingham area. Upper left is the Capstone Bradford building in Office Park, Mountain Brook. Lower left is the Omega over there on Magnolia Avenue. Upper right is Sheffield off of 280, and then lower right is South Point Bank on 280. And the South Point Bank install is interesting. Those modules are a particular module that don't have, they are much more aesthetically pleasing, for lack of a better word, in terms that they don't have the white lines or the notations that most solar modules have, whether they're black on white or white on black. So if you don't even know that solar, you drive by and it looks like a big flat screen TV on top of the roof. And by the way, there's also the equivalent capacity on the backside of that building that you can't see. So believe it or not, the highest concentration of solar energy in the greater Birmingham area actually exists in the huge metropolis of Mountain Brook in Office Park. So going back to Bradford in the upper left, it's interesting. We have that system. We have Cobbs Allen across the street, and we have the 300 Office Park building that Ladd Realty owns, and collectively, those three are all within a stone's throw of each other and represent the highest concentration of solar in the Birmingham area. So common question is, you know, if we decide to go ahead with this, what's involved? How long does it take? You know, is it a week? Is it a month? Is it 6 months? So these are I'm going to run through the milestones just quickly, and really the install time depends upon several things. However, the actual boots on the roof, so to speak, is a nominal part of all this. But if we go back to the milestones, say, you know, once the agreement's done, the contract's signed, milestone 2, 3, 4, really those kind of occur concurrently. And a couple of things happen. Before we spend any money, we want to, first of all, get our structural engineer out there. And code requires that we have an outside professional engineer review the roof structure and ascertain that the roof structure can withstand not only the dead load of the solar, but any other loads related to snow if we happen to have, you know, it be an area that has snow. Of course, we have snow here and they have to factor that in. The other thing is that every interconnected system has to be licensed by the utility. So for example, with Alabama Power, there's a process, it's called a purchase of alternative energy form or license. We run through that. There's no cost to it. Well, there can be a nominal cost, but we handle that. As Kathy said earlier, we're turnkey, so we're handling this entire process from beginning to end. But those first 4 milestones can take 3 to 4 weeks, depending upon how fast the utility replies, how quickly we can get the structural engineer out there. If the customer has building drawings, for example, structural drawings, or doesn't, all that weighs into it. Finally, there's on our end, we have to go through and do the engineering, which is happening typically during this process. Our single line drawings, which is the electrical engineering portion, has to be reviewed and stamped by an outside professional electrical firm. Of course, we handle that. So once all that is completed, then we go to the authority having jurisdiction, i.e. the city of Birmingham, city of Mountain Brook, city of Atlanta, wherever it happens to be. We pull the permit, and then we install. The installation actually is virtually non-invasive. For roof mounts, obviously, most of the work is done on the roof. If it's a tall building, we'll have a lift there for the first couple of days, moving material, and then after that, it's virtually out of sight, out of mind. To give you an idea of how long that process takes, I want to reference a install we're doing right now. Today, we started Monday moving materials. This is the Ferris Brewery in Trussville. It's a Kathy, 125 kW system. At the end of the day, we should have approximately 50% of the rooftop system installed. By the end of the week, weather permitting, we have the entire rooftop system installed. And then beyond that will just be the electrical interconnect. So it's a reasonably quick process. Of course, once all of that is completed, then we have to go back to the city who issued the permit. We have to get final inspections. Typically, that can include the fire department, electrical, and building. And we go through that, we get the sign-offs. And then when that's said and done, we go back to the utility and we send them the required paperwork. They approve the system. They come out. They will either reprogram the meter or install a bilateral meter that will read energy being sent back to the grid. When they give us the thumbs up, then we commission the system and start generating energy. And then beyond that, it's basically onboarding the customer. So we're here today for construction, and then we're here with you 5 years, 10 years, 20 years out. So we are not only onboarding you, giving you all the information you need on how the system operates up to the level that you want to know about it, but you'll also have access to real-time monitoring. So you'll know on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis how much your system is generating. We also follow that. We have the ability to detect anomalies in the system electronically. Oftentimes when we find those, and typically when those occur, they occur reasonably soon after commissioning, we'll get out there and we'll take care of those. And then we're there for the long term. We're reporting to you or communicating with you on your energy production, and oftentimes asking you for your utility bills to see how the energy production is rating with your utility consumption reduction and that kind of thing. But so in any case, actually, so in summary, it can be a long period. It can be 3 to 4 months from the time the contract signed to the time that you're completely onboarded, but the actual installation itself is just a minor part of that. And happy to answer any more questions about that if you'd like to post some.
Just quickly want to go through what some of our customers are saying. Hopefully you will hit our website. We've got some folks saying some nice things there, our Google page as well, and Facebook. But in this case, we had some good words of encouragement about our great job and better efficiency and offsetting operational expenses. So all sorts of good things said by a manufacturer, Joe Piper, South Point Bank, the system we showed you earlier, done construction. So we have really great feedback from our customers, and certainly would always love to put you in touch if there's ever a point where you want to get some additional referrals. But you can also go onto our website to actually see some of these projects. If you go to the portfolio section, we try to keep that updated with our latest pictures. We have some very exciting projects we just finished this year and some coming up as well. So please keep up to date. Join us on social media where we do some really great drone shots and talk a little bit about current projects and what's going on in the news. So hopefully you'll follow us there as well. Can't leave this without mentioning, yes, we focus on commercial businesses here in Alabama and Georgia, but we also work with nonprofits, particularly in North Carolina. If you happen to catch their webinar right before us, they talked a lot about solar leasing up in North Carolina, where we focus on schools and places of worship in particular. But we do some as well here. We do have worked with some churches and in particular some nonprofit camps. If you've ever been to Camp Lee or Camp McDowell. Bottom left is an agriculture producer. That's Ireland Farms, who does a lot of great food for organic food for some very popular restaurants in the area. And he's actually has a very nice battery system. If you go on to, again, our website and to the portfolio page of his system, he has a great video where he goes in detail about his off-grid system. And then the right is a residential system. Yes, we do residential. We do have the unfortunate Alabama Power Capacity Reservation Fee, which will eat up some of the savings as far as solar goes. But we do have a lot of interest in going to hybrid and off-grid systems these days. And we'd love to give you more details about that. But these hybrid and off-grid systems would avoid the capacity reservation fee. So just something to keep in mind. So please, again, call us. Another last little item here I want to point out is if, we covered a lot of stuff today. The U.S. Department of Energy also has a white paper. This is the title you'll search for on the internet. A very handy 4-page white paper that goes through these economics as well, talks about depreciations, tax credits, and how all that works. So that's something you can also keep on your desk. It's also very handy. But lastly, please, again, check out our website. There's lots of great information there about our financial incentives, our projects, referrals from our customers, blog about the REAP grant, all sorts of good stuff. But we'd actually love for anybody to pick up the phone, 800-982-0808, and just talk to us directly. We've got a great team here that loves to answer questions, and education is always our funnest and biggest part of our job. So thank everybody for their time. I'm going to go to the chat and see if any questions have come up. It looks like we've got a few here. Let's see here. One question was, what warranties are part of your installation? Sam, do you want to go there?
Yeah, and I touched on this earlier briefly. So the 3 main components of a solar system are the solar modules, the inverter, and the racking. Outside of that is conduit and wiring and disconnects and switches. But as mentioned earlier, the modules today are warranted for up to 25 years. The inverters, we extend those warranties to 20 years, and the racking generally is warranted for 15 years. Now, the racking is always 100% aluminum, so it's non-corrosive and virtually there's no breakdown to be expected, or that does occur. Now, can a system can it be damaged? Yes, it can. Solar modules are built with tempered glass. They're designed to withstand a 1-inch hail ball at 50 miles an hour. Do they withstand F5 tornadoes? No. I mean, if the roof is taken off, then the solar system will be taken off. However, they're very resilient. And we've got some customers, for example, that may be in the area where firearms are discharged on holidays. And they'll occasionally get a slug back down in the solar module. Well, does it completely kill the solar module? Ultimately, yes. Initially, no, because solar modules are either 60 or 72 individual distinct cells. So a slug or a crack in the module will only affect that one cell for some period of time until moisture gets in. And then obviously, eventually, the whole module has to be replaced. But they're very resilient.
Fantastic. Next question is, can I offset 100% of my building's power with solar? The only way to offset 100% would be an off-grid system, essentially. Off-grid systems involve batteries so that it can run during storms or at night. Otherwise, these systems are using the power directly as it's generated. So it would be difficult to do 100% on a building, obviously, without that backup power of batteries or a generator. We usually, our goal is to try to offset somewhere between about 40 to 60% of a building's power usage. And our goal is also, one thing we didn't talk a lot about is net metering. True net metering means you get the value back from the utility when you put onto the grid. In other words, if you're paying 14 cents kilowatt hour and you put back on the grid, if you export, you get that value back. That is not the case in all of our territory, even Georgia. We usually get about 2 or 3 cents if we put it back on the grid from the utility. So usually we try not to export. It's just not worth the value of it. So we usually try to set a goal around 40 to 60%. And then another question, as of right now, our federal tax credit's only good through the end of 2022. I know Sam said that may change with the current administration. I'll start that, and Sam, you jump in if there's anything, but yes, it's 26, it's set for sure for end of 2022 at 26%, then drops to 22%, and then down to 10% for the 2 following years after that. There is lots of discussion, and you jump in here. There's nothing said at this point to get it 30%, although there is conversation regarding that. There's no promises at the 30% right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, no promises at this point. There's a lot of discussion going on in Washington. We've been involved in some conversations with our representatives and the House Ways and Means Committee. Terry, we have a representative here for Congress, Terry Sewell, who is on that committee, and we've had a conversation with her staff. And there's a lot of push, obviously, towards the green tailwind, as we call it. It's Congress, so things have to be worked out between the House and Senate, and the legislation is not something that just happens overnight, and so who knows? But there's a lot of good sentiment right now coming out of Washington, so we'll see.
Fantastic. How do you actually see the savings? Is it a credit on your bill? In some states, it does work that way, where you export everything and then you get a credit back. In this case, we are just offsetting from the utility, so you would see a lower power bill. But of course, after every system is up and running, your salespeople will, if you're willing to share copies of your bill, we'll go back and we'll track that savings, make sure it's matching up with the monitoring, making sure it's matching the production of the solar. All to say, we have a lot of modeling involved in the process of this proposal, and we always try to go back and reassure customers. Obviously, this is what we have expected to see, and this is the kind of savings that you're actually getting. So I think that's most of the questions for now. We're about in the time we expected. So again, we appreciate your time so much. We're very excited about the growth of solar here in Alabama, and we just really feel like it's going to take off, in particular as the word gets out. So again, give us a call, 800-982-0808. Website is Eagle Solar and Light, with the and spelled out, and we'd love to talk to you. Thanks.
Thanks so much, everybody.